All right, so we made it to round 2 of Formula Drift ProSpec competition at Raceway Park in New Jersey. This track was a brand new addition for this year's Formula Drift series. There are a few drivers that have driven here before, but the majority of us have never been here. And this track had its difficulties even though it looked like a simple figure 8. It used and crossed over an old drag strip, so not only was it bumpy on these transitions, but there was a pavement change from the new pavement to the old drag strip pavement. My very first practice lap on Thursday, I hopped into the follow lane because, quite honestly, it was shorter and I wanted to get on track as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I got behind Josh Love and he put out so much tire smoke that I really had trouble seeing these visual cues that I was looking for, so I knew where to put my car. I took a very shallow line on my first practice lap, so I hopped into the lead lane in my second lap so that I could get some clean air up front and really learn where I need to put the car. One of the things I did realize in this first lap that I had was that the track was really grippy. So on my lead lap, I decided to just really huck the car in and see what was needed for this entry. Unfortunately, I started to over-rotate and I was trying to bring it back and keep going, but I didn't do that in time and the person following me ended up slamming right into me. So I broke a lot of parts on the front passenger side of my car. The tie rod snapped in half, the BC Racing coilover bent in half, our Wise Fab version 2 knuckle broke, which is not something easy to break, and our strut tower even got a little bit tweaked. So we ended up sitting out of the rest of the first practice session for the team to fix the car. Unfortunately, I did not have another knuckle. So I ran from team to team to try to find another knuckle, and fortunately Adam LZ ended up loaning us his spare for the competition. We were able to get the car fixed for our second practice session on Thursday, but it didn't feel quite right. I took the first 2 laps and just something about the car didn't feel right. We took it back to the pits to look over it again, and it looked like my passenger side front wheel was somewhat rubbing as I was going from lock to lock. So it was acting like I was getting on the brakes on that front right tire, causing me to over-rotate and spin. We pulled some things out of the way, made some adjustments, and sent it back out there and got 2 more laps on Thursday, which felt better, but I still wasn't confident about where I was putting the car on the track. I was still looking for where I wanted to go and figuring out the best line for the layout. So going into Friday, I was a little bit nervous. Thursday night, the team decided to go over the car with the help of Ben Hobson's team, just in case anything was missed after our collision on Thursday. We knew we'd only have a few warm-up laps on Friday before qualifying, and we wanted to make sure that everything was good and was the best setup possible going into qualifying. The car was definitely feeling better in Friday's warm-up, but I felt like there was still a lot of improvements that I could have made on my driving. So going into qualifying, my strategy was to just put down a solid and maybe somewhat safe lap to get me in the show on Saturday. I initiated really confidently, but unfortunately it was shallow on the first outer zone.
Kelsey Rowlings. Kelsey initiates confidently in that first outside zone.
One of the things I wish I had more time to dial in was that entry and figuring out the timing and the speed of it. I never really figured out where the best spot was to initiate, but I managed to transition really well into the second outer zone. I was deep in the second outer zone, maybe a little too deep because I ended up dropping 1, maybe 2 tires in like the first half of it, but I brought the car back on track for the second half, stayed deep in the zone, was good on the inner clip, and then transitioned pretty confidently into the third and final zone. I ended up getting a score of a 79, which was actually a better score than I thought I would get, so that was a pretty big relief. It ended up putting me in the 17th qualifying position, and my top 32 battle on Saturday was going to be against Corey Talaska, who qualified 16th. On Saturday, we had a few warm-up laps before going into our top 32 battle. I was following Corey first in our battle, and I ended up having a pretty good follow run. Corey put down a really nice, smooth lead run, but he was shallow in pretty much every outer zone.
He qualified just one spot, so like you said, very equally matched. But just as I say that, Corey Talaska does not get out to that outside zone. Wherever he needs to go, Kelsey needs to follow. Coming to that second outside zone. Corey now digs deep into that second outside zone. Kelsey Rowlings pedals it back just nice enough. Keeps it off the side of that BMW as Corey, again, doesn't get out there, just barely dips that left tire in towards the latter portion of that last outside zone.
So because of those mistakes that he made in the lead, I knew where there were points on the table, and I knew I had a chance. So going to my lead run, I had the strategy of putting down that just solid qualifying lap. I entered really confidently, spinning the tires up for the initiation. I ended up being shallow again on that first outer zone like I had been all weekend, but I transitioned really well into the second outer zone. I stayed deep, was good on the inner clip, and I finished pretty solid through the third and final outer zone.
Kelsey Rowlings throws some yanks are really deep in that second outside zone, the 180-degree outside zone. Corey gets caught up in the smoke, and look at Kelsey Rowlings out front, getting the clean air, looking very confident.
Fortunately, the judges decided that my laps were a little bit better than Corey's, so I got the win and I moved on into the top 16.
Kelsey Rowlings gets the win.
My top 16 battle was a hard one. I was going against the #1 qualifier, Dmitry Brutsky, and not only was he the #1 qualifier, but this is his home track. He just recently won a shootout competition here at this very track, so I knew he was gonna be a tough one to beat. I was following first, and I entered pretty close in proximity, but my goal was to catch up through the transition and really put on his door, which I was able to do. At the beginning of the second outer zone, I was right there on his door. About halfway through the second outer zone, I had a major bobble because I felt a little bit of a change in his momentum. And it caught me off guard a little bit, so I had a little bit of bobble and correction. And after that, I was kind of trying to catch back up again, and I was never able to put myself in that same position. I maintained pretty good proximity, but I wasn't able to put it on his door like I had in the beginning of the second outer zone. Overall, it wasn't a terrible lap, but I knew I had that bobble on that second outer zone. So going into my lead lap, I knew I had to put down a really good run. I had the same issues as my previous runs. I entered really confidently, but again, I was shallow on that first outer zone. I transitioned in the second outer zone, and it was pretty good.
Kelsey putting on a great lead run right now.
Stayed deep, was good on the inner clip, and I was good on the third and final outer zone. But overall, Dmitry definitely had the better laps than me. He was able to follow me really, really nicely, very smooth, and overall his lead lap was better than mine. So unfortunately, I lost and Dmitry got the win, but he also went on to win the entire event. So I was really proud of my performance, and I don't feel too bad getting knocked out by the person who ended up winning the event. He was on fire all weekend. He was looking really good. So I'm really happy for him. We had so much fun in our battles. After their battle, we were like clapping for each other, and like I just wanted to go run and give him a big hug because it was just so much fun. And after the struggles we had on Thursday, it was a really good way to end the weekend. And ending on such a high point makes me really excited for round 3 in St. Louis. So hopefully we can put a little more pressure on our competitors and do even better there. This track was added to the Formula Drift Thursday night. We I don't know where it was. Better. Final outer zone. Poop.
What's up, guys? I'm Kelsey Rowlings. Thursday I made a big goof, and then I got memed, and then I broke the car, and then we fixed it, and then it wasn't all the way fixed, and then we fixed it more, and then I did a qualifier, and then I beat somebody, and then I almost beat the guy who won. Check out these clips, yo.
Well, that's it. I don't have to do this anymore.